Hey, good evening, everybody. Give the room a second to populate here, get everybody in. As always, if you're coming in from the Tour of Idaho Facebook page, make sure to give StreamYard your credentials. If you're coming in from YouTube or the motorcyclejazz.com Facebook page, just put your name at the end of your comments so that I will know who you are when you ask a question. I'm going to have a guest tonight. He still hasn't come into the room yet, but he got the link. He told me he got the link, so we'll wait for him for a few minutes. It's Aaron Stafford, tour vet, who's just done something incredibly cool. He summited on Denali a couple of weeks ago, and I wanted to bring him in tonight to talk about that. Before we get going on that, though, just some updates, a little bit of news and notes. One of the things that I encountered this week that interested me quite a bit was I got a message from the Garmin people, and evidently they're not offering the Geos insurance anymore. So the Medevac insurance, if you have it, you can't renew it, and it runs out just as tour season is starting. So you all might want to check on that. I've always maintained that you should have Life Flight, the Geos Medevac, all that stuff. The Life Flight, basically, if you have Life Flight insurance and it's valid in this area, it will do most of what the Geos did. I'm doing a little research on plans that replace it, and I haven't found a lot yet. Garmin bought Geos. I don't know what the heck's going on with all this. But anyway, if you have that policy, you can't renew it. And that interested me quite a bit. Good evening, Jim and Ben. The other thing that came up this week that is not really any immediate impact on the Tour of Idaho, but is interesting nonetheless, is that Giant Loop has been bought by a conglomerate. So most of you are aware of Giant Loop. It's run by a good friend of mine, and who I'd like to bring on to one of these shows one time. Hello, Jeff. Hello, Jeff. Hello, Brent. But he was able to sell it, and that's a good thing. You know, when you own a company and you get bought out like that, that's almost always a wonderful thing. Hello, Scott. So congratulations to Harold. He's going to stay involved, I think, for 2 more years, according to the email that I read. But we'll try to get him on here, and he can talk about it himself. Other little news and notes. We're about a month out from teams starting to roll now, so we're getting pretty doggone close. One of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to have a series of riders meetings again this year. I'm not going to – hello, Mike. I'm not going to have as many as I had last year. And this year, I want to try to space them out throughout the day, morning, nights, because we have teams from all over the place that are coming this year. But you're going to have to figure out a way to get at least one member of your team to one of these things. We'll do them all online. We'll do them through Zoom. So it's, you can do Zoom through a cell phone if you need to. It's super easy to do. But we are going to have some riders meetings, and I'm going to talk to you about make sure that everybody understands what's going on before teams head out this year. We can clear up any misconceptions you might have. Now, once again, these riders meetings are, it's an hour out of my life every time. I think with the version of Zoom that I have, we're limited to 40 minutes because I don't want to upgrade to the pay a lot of money every month version of Zoom. So I have the low-level version of Zoom. So we're limited to 40 minutes. That's plenty enough time to answer questions and stuff like that. But it's still 40 minutes of my life I can't get back. Last year, I had a guy at one of these riders meetings that sat there and ate a bowl of cornflakes while I'm trying to talk to him about this stuff. If you do that this year, I'm going to have a come apart. This is time that I'm investing in you for the sole reason of you. I want you to get through this. And this is one more way that I'm trying to reach you just to make sure that you have all of the information that you need to set yourself up for success. So please make my time worthwhile. Don't sit there and eat breakfast while we're having a Zoom meeting. I know the pandemic made a lot of formalities go away, but that nonetheless shocked me a little bit. Hello, Brian. The other thing is that I would like for all of you, hello, Richard. I would like for all of you who are on a team this year that's coming. I already heard from one fellow, a soloist, who asked to be taken off the calendar, and I appreciate him reaching out to me and doing that. So, hello, Drew. What I need to do is I am assuming that everybody that's on that calendar is coming. If that is an incorrect assumption, if you were not coming, please let me know. And the best way to do it, I mean, people, again, I get information from all these different streams. I get DMs, I get text messages, I get all kinds of crazy stuff. But the best way to do it is just to go over to the forum, and on that page, just make an entry, team so-and-so is withdrawing, or I can't come. That's the very best way to do it. I'll probably eventually see the rest of that stuff, but I'm notorious for taking a long time to get to my DMs. So if you're not coming, it'd be a good thing to let me know. Hey, here we go. We got our guest coming in, and I'll bring him in just a minute. So that's kind of the news and notes. There is one other thing. One team emailed me or DM me or something and said, hey, we found out where one of the mystery locations is because we booked the room and the clerk told us where it was. You know what? I can't control everything in the world. I talked to those folks in all these places I'm sending you this year, kind of told them what was up. But there's no guarantee that you're going to get the owner every time. Whoever gave out that information was probably just a clerk or something that didn't know. They don't know what you're doing. So I have talked to some teams that have gone to extraordinary lengths to make sure something like that didn't happen. They got somebody else to make the reservation. One fella told me that he got his wife to make the reservation just so that he wouldn't figure that out. And I would suggest that probably most of you, anybody that's smart's already made all the reservations. But that's the very best way to handle something like that. If you're worried about finding out, and it's a disservice to you, not to me, because you're robbing yourself of a lot of the adventure. If I know, by the way, your mystery route might get a lot more interesting, but just get your wife to do it or something like that. There's all kinds of easy ways to avoid stuff like that. But once it happens, there's nothing that I can do about it. I mean, and I know, so, you might have, your mystery route might get a little longer. Let's just put it that way. So, without any further ado, I want to bring in our guest here. There he is. You got audio and everything?
I think so. Can you hear me?
Yes, there he is. So, Aaron Stafford, tour vet, real good guy, friend of mine. And he recently did something that I think is one of the coolest things that I have seen done this year. Tell everybody about your recent adventure.
So, May 24th, my wife and I set out, and for our 20-year anniversary, we wanted to do something cool, so we went to 20,000 feet. So we set out on an expedition and climbed Denali for former Mount McKinley. And we
That's
made it.
Awesome, dude. That's all. I followed you. You gave me your PLB link. It looked like you guys spent a good amount of time getting acclimated. I saw you yo-yo up to the ridge an awful lot.
Yep.
It looked like you made that trip up and down a whole bunch of times. How was that?
Well, we climbed. Well, from base camp to the summit is about 13,000 feet, and we climbed over 20. So
wow.
The climb high, sleep low mentality, climb cash, go back down, sleep low. And yeah, we took us 17 days to make a round trip, but we had phenomenal weather and it worked out pretty good.
Your pictures looked great. It looked like there was a lot of blue sky and you guys were having a good time. So what motivates you to do something like that? Climbing Denali is an incredible accomplishment. And, a lot of people do it, but a lot of people get lucky. And you guys were not lucky. You were skilled. So what motivated you to do something like that? Tell us a little bit about your planning. And then, how does this relate to something like the Tour of Idaho in terms of level of adventure, difficulty, stuff like that?
So honestly, I was kind of the opposite of you, Martin. You did a lot of badass stuff when you were young. And
I don't know about that.
No, you did. I mean, quit being humble. You did, and you got a lot of respect from most of us, all of us here, for what you've done. But, mine kind of came later in life. I was always a motorhead. I was a working guy. I built a business. We've been building a business. This is actually our 20th year in business too. So it's 20-year anniversary that we're married, but 20 years in business. So we. I don't know. The Tour of Idaho honestly kind of sparked my level of excitement to do crazy stuff. And, I think I actually thought about this when you had messaged me on when I was on Denali. I think I was up at 14,000 feet. And I got thinking, you spend quite a bit of time in a tent. You get thinking, you're like, how does this relate to the tour of Idaho? Is this harder? Is this easier? Whatever, it's all an adventure. And there's a lot of similarities, honestly, of just enduring some of the uncomfort, but also just the raw adventure. Like, it's really hard and it challenges you, but at the end of the day, you're like, that was pretty cool. That was really neat.
Sorry, I got a little tickle in my throat here. And one thing about adventure, too, is that in order for it to be an adventure, the outcome can't be guaranteed. There's got to be a chance you can fail, or
Right.
else it's not an adventure. Anybody can fly a helicopter if you can find a turbo model that'll get you to 20,000 feet and summit on McKinley. Every year in the Himalayas, there are clients that literally get drugged and carried by their Sherpas to the top of Mount Everest. So, at some level, it's not that much of an accomplishment. I guess a lot of people, the Everest deal is, if I'm paying $100,000, I darn well better get to the top. That's kind of the ethic there. You guys didn't do that. You went. Guides. Is that correct?
We did. We went with
yeah, that's
RMI
real
guys
common.
out of Washington, and I've got some a really good friend that rides, that used to guide on Denali. He actually met his wife on Denali, and anyways, Seth's a great guy, and he was a good mentor to me, and whatnot. I keep trying. He keeps talking about doing the tour of Idaho. He hasn't done it yet, but yeah, I mean, it's exactly right. My wife doing it was probably way more of an accomplishment than me doing it, because if you know anything about Denali, you know that you take all of your weight for 3 weeks worth of gear and you carry it yourself. There's no porters, no Sherpas, no yaks, no anything. That plane drops you off. That little otter drops you off on the Hilton Glacier, and you've got 3 weeks worth of stuff. It's up to you to make it happen. You got to drag that stuff. And those of you that are friends with me on Facebook probably saw way too much stuff I posted, but there's a lot of cool pictures of, dragging sleds and some of the stuff we saw and the work we put in.
I've often maintained that there's two incredibly lonely sites in the world. Anywhere in the middle of the tour of Idaho on what was for you guys, I think, day 7, what's now day 9. Anywhere in the middle of that's lonely, like where you guys met your prison gang friends. And the other loneliest site in the world is a de Havilland otter flying off into the sunset while you're sitting there in a glacier somewhere knowing that his instructions are to come back in 3 weeks. And that's it.
You kind of got to make it happen.
You do. Yeah. And you know what? The technology's improved a little bit. There's PLBs and cell phones and things like that now. But you're still out there. And at some level, you are very, very exposed. If the weather turns bad, that plane can't come back. So you're stuck there. You break your leg in bad weather or something like that, somebody's going to dig a hole in the ground and put you in it.
When we were at 14,000 foot camp, we were there for several days, and we actually watched a helicopter go up to 19.5 up the football field and actually extract a guy that had a heart attack and died.
Wow.
And so we kept watching the chopper, and he'd go up there and he was too heavy. So he'd come back down and he'd take stuff out, and he ended up taking fuel. I don't know exactly how they extracted, but he dropped fuel in order to get up there to get that guy's body off of 19.5. That kind of hits home when you see them flying a guy that just perished off the mountain that you're trying to get to the top of on the same route. But it's part of the gig. There's risk. There's risk sitting on the couch, right? There's risk doing anything.
There is. Now, you trained quite a bit for this. I've followed you the past several years, and you've climbed Rainier a bunch of times. You really put a lot of work into this. This was not just a spur-of-the-moment kind of thing. Hey, for our 20th, let's go do this. You invested years of effort into planning this. Tell everybody about that.
So about 3 years ago, we climbed Mount Rainier for the first time. A friend of ours drug us to the top, and it kicked my ass really good. It was actually the same year that I did the tour of Idaho with Dawn in 2018. And this was in July. We did the tour of Idaho early September. And it just kind of sparked some adventure in me. And I thought, you know what? It'd be really cool to do something else. And so my wife, she's very adventuresome. Martin, you've met Lori.
I have.
She loves to run marathons. She's an Idaho girl, so she knows she's tough. And she's like, hey, let's do this together. So about 3 years ago, we decided we were going to do it. And we trained a lot. We spent a lot of time on Rainier and skiing on Rainier and climbing Rainier. And, you know, Rainier is a good training ground, and it's right in our backyard. So we did that. And, you know, just honestly, having 6 kids is pretty good mental prep. We have 6 kids, so that's pretty good mental prep. She feels like she got a break when she climbed Denali, which that is crazy, but yes.
Yeah,
so, I mean, it's similar to the Tour of Idaho. Like that's kind of the fun of it, right? Is like, it's fun doing it, but like all the prep, like you're trying to make sure all the stuff fits in your saddlebags on your bike. You're making sure that your bike is ready to go. You're making sure your bike works, making sure everything is not going to leave you hanging. And you do the same thing climbing, and we did the same thing climbing, and that's fun. It's fun putting it all together and seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work, and then you get out there and you try it out.
A couple of technical questions. You know, tents and sleeping bags and stuff like that have come a long way from back in my day. I still have my original down bag that I did all that stuff with, but it's so frail now that I'm afraid if I use it, the down will explode out all the baffles. So, you know, back in the day, a tent that you would take to someplace like Denali, because you need a pretty stout tent because the wind can really come up there. You know, a tent like that weighed 6, 7, 8 pounds. I mean, it was pretty heavy. Sleeping bags, you know, a down sleeping bag weighed 4 or 5 pounds. It was a lot. How much did the stuff like that you weigh? I know you sat down and weighed all that stuff. So what was the weight of like sleeping bags, boots, stuff like that? What was the total weight you all carried?
So you're actually right on the money. My sleeping bag, we had minus 25 made by Western Mountaineering out of San Jose, California. Great bags, but they're about 5 pounds. And the Mountain Hardware tents that we use, the Tarangos, they are about 6 to 7 pounds, about 7 pounds.
So they haven't gotten considerably lighter then. They're about the same as they were.
They are. You're exactly right. Anyway, when you leave the airstrip, you have probably, I'm going to say we probably had, when you watch your wife try to put all this weight on, all of a sudden you've got a lot more weight because you don't want to see your wife struggle. She probably had between her pack and her sled 110 pounds.
Wow.
I probably had well over 130 would be my guess. So you've got group gear. Yeah, we went with a guide, but you've got all your group gear. You got all your food. We had just lunches alone. We had about 25 pounds a piece because you don't know if you get up there and get stuck in a tent, you know, well, Martin, you could be there for an extra week. You could be there an extra 8 days. When we came back to the airstrip after summiting, we actually had to wait 2 days before the weather cleared for us to even leave. So,
you know, one thing too about that is I've never been up to 20,000 feet, but I've been up around 15 and 16, and you know, things taste different at altitude to me. And there were some things that I could eat, you know, here at 5,200 feet that I couldn't eat at 15,000 feet. Did you have that trouble? There were some things that all of a sudden didn't taste good anymore, and there was some of your food you couldn't eat?
Oh, absolutely. Unless it was really salty or really sugary, your body didn't want it.
Yeah,
The fattier stuff when you get up about 17,000 feet, which we're up there for 3 days, when you get up above 17,000 feet, your body doesn't process or break down the fats quite as quick, but the sugar is quick. It still breaks down. So sugars. This is funny, but probably the 17th day, I actually had a dream in the middle of the night, a very vivid dream that I was eating a salad. And it was the most amazing thing I'd ever eaten. And I was just like, I've got to get a salad. And it took 3 days before we could go back and get a salad. But yeah, everything tastes different at altitude. You know,
I remember the first time I did a route on the Diamond in Rocky Mountain National Park, big wall. It's all above 13,000 feet. And we got up there and we brought along like Cliff kind of bars and things like that to eat. And I couldn't eat any of them. They just didn't taste good.
Those are terrible.
And the only thing I could eat was we had this gigantic bag of Skittles, and I could eat Skittles. And to this day, I can't even stand to be in a room with a bag of Skittles because I ate Skittles. It rained and snowed, and there was verglass all over everything, and it just took forever. We did it in full-on winter conditions. And so I remember the last day, the ropes were frozen to the wall. We were having to chip them out of the wall and stuff like that. So we were up there for a while. It was 3 full days, and I ate nothing but Skittles for 3 days. And every time my kids bring home Skittles now, I get like hives and stuff. It's terrible. That's why I asked that question, because I've never been altitude sick, but your physiology does change at altitude, and it's a little bit different for everybody.
You know, what's crazy too is we ate really well and we ate a lot. But I came back and I lost 15 pounds.
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy. You didn't even think so. You're like, I ate the whole time. I ate lots of pastas, eat lots of sugar and lots of whatever, but your body just doesn't react the same way. But yes,
well, you're also burning 7,000
bears.
calories.
I went to the summit with a bag of gummy bears. That's all I ate was gummy bears. And then I got back down. I was like, I don't want any gummy bears. No more gummy bears.
It's funny. I got a buddy that's riding his bike across the country right now, high school classmate of mine. And you probably saw, I met him at Devil's Tower about a week or so ago, and it was a lot of fun. And he says he's been keeping really careful track what he's doing. He's consuming 7,500 calories a day and still losing weight. He's doing one of these kind of trips where, you know, they have a sag wagon and stuff, but they're averaging like 110 miles a day. They're riding a tight pack. Yeah,
wow.
they're like hauling ass. So they're not carrying any gear or anything, but they're on road bikes, which I can't imagine riding a road bike all the way across the country anyway. Your butt's got to hurt so bad. And they're in a really tight Peloton. You know, he's riding like 6 inches from a wheel all day long, 110 miles all the way across the country.
Wow.
And I talked to him last night, and he said, yeah, I've been charting at 7,500 calories a day, and I'm still losing weight.
That's impressive. That's hard work there.
So mountaineering rest step and all that, you guys worked on that, right? So it's like the thing about climbing that to me is also real similar about motorcycling is that sometimes you slow down and go fast. Jimmy talked about that a few weeks ago. And in mountaineering, when you start busting up, you know, the plane leaves and, you know, you're looking up and you're going, yeah, let's go. And the unwise people are the first people to start charging up the hill, man. They're busting a nut going up the hill. And all the smart people are just like, one step, take a breath, another step, take a breath. And it may take them a half an hour longer to get there, but the next morning, man, they're still good to go, and they can maintain that pace all the way up. How did pacing and stuff, how did you guys kind of lock into that?
So with the guys, you know, they locked it in pretty good for us, you know. I would have probably considered not going with a guide if it wasn't with my wife, but I just figured it was too big a risk, so I wanted to go with somebody who knew the mountain. Mm-hmm. But it was slow, like really slow. I mean, sometimes you're like, let's get moving here. But you look back and then you're like, you get to the next camp or get up to 17,000 feet where you don't recover as quick. And you're like, oh, I still feel pretty good. But that's the goal. We don't want to burn ourselves out the first day because we can't recover. After that, there's not enough time, there's not enough whatever to recover sometimes from those big exertions. So slow and steady wins the race.
And that is, for all of you who are listening out there, directly applicable to what you are getting ready to do this summer. Absolutely. If you come out here on the gas the first day and it's like, I'm going to show everybody it doesn't take 12 hours to get to Pocatello. That's energy that you can't make up. You're going to feel that every day, and by day 5 or 6, I don't care who you are, your body's going to be telling you, I've had enough. Because it's like getting beat on by a bag of hammers. If you slow down just a little bit, it's a lot better for you. Slow down and keep moving. Instead of trying to go fast and blowing past intersections and stopping all the time, slow the heck down. Do your map study well enough that you don't have to keep stopping at every intersection to figure out what's up, but slow and steady wins the race. And it's not just, it's in a lot of things. Yeah, I never did a lot of mountaineering like you've done. Most of my stuff was big walls, and a lot of them were remote alpine big walls at altitude. But it's the same way when you're climbing those pitches. If you start just like lunging for holds and stuff on the first pitch, you're not going to make it very far. You got to just sit down there and figure out that I got to grind this thing out nice and slow, steady, and then don't stop unless you absolutely have to. Just keep moving. So tell me about the standard route at McKinley is not incredibly technical, but it does have some technical sections to it. Tell me what really impressed you about it.
So it got fun when we got about 14,000 feet. You go what we call the fixed lines, which are about 55 degrees slope. So there would be a fixed line, and you have an ascender that only goes one way, and you work your way up. And the fixed line were blue ice because it doesn't get much snow up there. It's too cold in the winter. There's too much wind. The snow doesn't really accumulate, so it's just ice. But then you get above that on the West Buttress, and you're up on Washburn's Thumb and some of that. And, there's a couple, 2,000-3,000 feet down on either side, and you're kind of walking a little ridge. But it's really cool. I mean, you get up there, and the wind's maybe blowing a little bit, or the view, and you leave behind all the normal stuff in life, and you're just worried about what's right in front of you. And that was what was really cool. And the Tour of Idaho is the same way. You can put all this stuff. You got to put it away while you're doing this stuff. Put it away and focus on the task at hand. And so, yeah, that's pretty cool. And, you were kind of talking about this, but I was, honestly, I've really thought about it a lot. What's harder, Denali or the Tour of Idaho? And I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of the Tour of Idaho that's more difficult than climbing something like Denali. Denali, you have rest days. You have rest days. The Tour of Idaho, you're riding, you're moving, and you continuously are working. You don't have the extreme cold. Yeah, it can get cold and it'll throw you out, and it can be life-threatening too. But the weather, there's just so many variables. You can't pack as much gear on the Tour of Idaho as I could take on Denali. I could prepare for a lot more stuff on Denali than you can for the Tour of Idaho, just for the fact that you can't have the sheer weight. And you got to be smart and pack light, and it takes a lot of grit and determination and mental fortitude to do the Tour of Idaho. And I don't know. I need to do a Tour of Idaho. Don and I are talking about doing it again next year. I don't know if he's told you.
Yeah.
We actually have another brother, a third brother. So there might be three of us.
We'll reserve a spot for you next year.
Okay. So I'd like to do it again and see what's harder. But there's so many corresponding things in life between all these different things. And, I just think it's good to challenge yourself and push yourself, no matter what the outcome. Even if you don't make it, there's a million different things that can push you out of it. But it's the fun in trying. It's the adventure. It's giving it a shot. It's the prep. It's all that. That's what's fun. And, it's not the picture on the summit or the picture at Sundance that means everything. It's the whole adventure. And that's what I'm excited to do again on something else. I need a break here for a little bit, but I think next year we might do the Tour of Idaho and might come see you.
You just said something that's incredibly important, and we try to tell everybody this. And since so many people, in climbing, most people don't come from a racing background that are climbers, right? There are some speed climbers that do that, but most people are just recreationists, and they attempt harder and harder things. But in motorcycle world, it's really weird because an unusual number of people are involved in the racing scene, and I think they learn some of the wrong lessons from racing. So we get people that come here and failure is unacceptable. I hear that all the time. No, there's failure is unacceptable. This isn't like a race, man. In a race, the thing that's in doubt is not whether or not you're eventually going to get to the finish line unless you have a mechanical or something. It's just what your place is going to be. But, you're riding laps around a course, you're eventually going to get there. I've never been in a race, road or dirt, where I had any doubt about the fact I was going to finish. It's just, what place am I going to finish in? In climbing, man, everything's in doubt. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if the weather's going to turn bad. And things are different kinds of hard. What you did is incredibly hard in one way, in that you're kind of way out on a limb there. In the Tour of Idaho, you got a motor that's going to get you somewhere every night unless something breaks. So the one good thing is, it doesn't matter how bad things suck right now. Unless I'm incredibly unlucky, I'm going to be someplace tonight where I can kind of reload. On Denali, nope, you're out there for a long time. You're in that tent. And if the weather turns bad, things can get grim pretty quickly. The weather was always the thing that scared me the most about climbing. And the last time I did a route up there, I did a route on the Arctic Circle about 30 years ago. It was the last serious thing I ever did as a climber. And we waited for 3 weeks for the weather to break. And we had a 24-hour window in the weather to do a 3,000-foot granite wall.
Wow.
And we did it in 24 hours, but to tie this into what you just said, we didn't make it all the way to the top. We made it 3 pitches from the top. So we'd done all the hard stuff, all the technical stuff, all the stuff that really stresses people and causes them to fail. We got thrashed all that stuff in one 24-hour push, and I led every pitch because my partners were completely freaked out. I mean, they looked at the bottom, they saw the snow and stuff falling down the face, and they said, I'm not going up there. And I said, yes, you are. If I have to beat you on the head with my rock hammer, we're going up there. So I led all the pitches. And we got up to about 3 or 4 pitches from the top. And I could see it in their eyes that, the weather was starting to deteriorate. And I said, I basically browbeat these guys into doing this. So this is on me. If something happens now, I'm really responsible for these guys. Well, the weather was good. They were pretty good-natured about it, but now it's time to go down. I don't regard that as a failure at all. I regard that as possibly the accumulation, because I had acquired enough wisdom at that point to know there's no need to be an asshole and to take a chance. I mean, it's one thing if you're by yourself, which is why I like to ride by myself. It's another thing if you involve other people in this. And all these years later, I don't regret not doing the last 400 feet at all. I feel like it was a success. And I think that, you know what, dude, at that point in your life, you had acquired enough wisdom to know that you're going to hate yourself a lot more if you push this and something goes south.
Absolutely.
So things are just a different kind of hard.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. You got to know when to say when, right? And sometimes it's just, it's all the adventure. Like if you're going for the picture at Sundance Mountain, you're going for the wrong reason, really, because this is a hell of an adventure. And if you're just focused solely on the end, you're kind of missing the whole point, because everything in between is what's really you're going to remember. I remember Sundance, but you know what? I remember snuggling in a tent with a bunch of prisoners too, a lot better than that. I can remember putting all of our clothes into an industrial dryer at Locksaw, trying to get the gal to turn it on for us because we were just sopping wet, That's the stuff I remember. That's the stuff that I tell stories to my kids and everybody else about, and that's fun and that everybody remembers. And it's fun. And, I've said this before when you had me on before, but be fun. If you guys are listening and you're doing the tour of Idaho and you're planning on doing it, have fun with it. Make it fun. This is fun. It's, somebody's probably going to see your name on the finisher list and think, oh, that's a cool guy. But let's be honest, have fun with it. That's what really matters. Have fun. Martin's done an incredible job putting this all together year after year after year. And it's an incredible journey. And if you don't make it, you know what? Sometimes you don't. And, be civil about it. Help everybody else. And the thing I like what you're saying about racing is, the thing about a race, if you get out on a race and you're out, you're out. The Tour of Idaho, you get out, you're not out. I mean, you still get to keep going. You got to see everything that's in front of you. You got to figure out the challenges that lie ahead of you and find a way through it. Even if for some reason you say, okay, I'm out, I'm not finishing the Tour of Idaho, you could still finish it. You may not be a finisher, but you could still, there's nobody holding a gun to your head saying you can't go to Sundance and make your own way up there, even if you don't officially become an official finisher. But have fun with it. It's such a cool experience, and I kind of want to do it again.
Well, I will reserve a spot for your team next year. So even if we have more than 30 teams you guys are in, that last year's the last year, right?
Yeah, I did know that, and that's kind of why we got talking about it. So I got to find something cool for my wife to do for a while so that she can feel like she got hers, and then I can go do my thing. So,
I'm going to have to be picking your brain on a couple things because I'm planning my post-tour life right now, and I did manage to get my mother-in-law to agree to watch the kids while I do my first adventure a couple years from now. But you were gone for a long time, and I may need some advice from you for how to find a place to stash your kids where they'll be alive when you get back. And the second thing is,
lucky you, I got lots of daughters. I'll just send a couple your way.
the good, I'll pay them. The other thing that's cool is I don't know how many of you out here can appreciate how hard it is to do something like this with your spouse, because there are some things. I love my wife, and we play music together, but playing music together sometimes is stressful, right? Because you're out there and people are listening, and all of a sudden, oh man, I hit that note wrong. That was a wrong note, and it screws everything up. When you are climbing with someone and your lives are literally in each other's hands, being married to that person is an incredibly tough thing to do. It's like, when the Bartons did the Tour of Idaho a few years ago, I said, gee, I wonder if they'll be married at the end of this. It's tough. And what you doing that for your 20th anniversary, man, I just cannot express enough appreciation and respect. That's an awesome feat, not just to climb Denali, but to climb it with your wife. That's pretty hardcore.
Yeah, we did get a little bit of people were like, hold on a second, you're doing what? But they asked us what it was like afterward, and I said, Lori's never going to see this, so I can kind of speak whatever. But I said, well, what's it like climbing Denali with your wife? I said, it's kind of like 20 years of marriage crammed into 18 days. There was sunny days, there was windy, snowy days, there was days that she loved me, there was days that she wanted to kill me. But, but the thing about it, it was fun. It was cool. And she, you've met her. She's tough as nails, and she has mental toughness like no one I've ever seen, as well as physical. But we'll never ride the Tour of Idaho together. That's not her thing, and that's fine. That's good. I need to do something without her too. But well, thank you. I appreciate that, Martin.
Look, I was married a long time ago to a woman who was a climber, and I climbed with her a lot, and it was really, really hard because, you're in situations that are kind of life and death situations where things can go south pretty quick, and the hardest thing in the world is to, in those cases, communicate urgency without also communicating things that you didn't intend to communicate. I have to work on that a lot just playing music with my wife. We're playing jazz music and we're playing these complex pieces. And, every once in a while I got to say, hon, we need to slow the tempo down a little bit. And it's tough to communicate even something that simple in a way that does not come across as bossy or condescending or something like that. I mean, you got to really work on that. And I'm not making this into like guys are stable and women are crazy kind of a thing. It's just that men and women see the world in fundamentally different ways sometimes. Yep. And if you're going to do something like climb Denali or play music, you have to really work hard on that level of communication so that you communicate your intent and not things that you did not intend. To put yourself in a situation where, life and limb are at stake, that really ups the odds there. So, again, my hat is off to you. To do that on your 20th anniversary is truly a phenomenal feat.
Thank you, Martin.
And please be sure to tell your wife I said that. I just when I saw that picture in the summit, you guys were hugging each other. I said, well, by golly, it worked.
It did. There was a few touch and go moments in there, but we pulled it off, and the weather, the part you can't see there is, you look at, when I get to the summit, I'm going to do this or that, right? It was 25 below zero, blowing 30 miles an hour. We said, hurry, get a camera out, take a picture, we're getting out of here.
It's like no Everest, you get to spend 30 seconds up there. Yeah.
The wind really kicked up when we got on the summit ridge and made it miserable, but it was really cool. So,
hey, anything else you want to tell everybody? I've kept you for a long time tonight, so take 5 minutes and tell everybody anything you want to tell them.
I would say take advantage of the Tour of Idaho. Like I said last time on here, is be respectful to everybody. and have fun with it all the way along the way. Every few years, there's a group or two that kind of spoil it and kind of wants, leave the drama at home. Just come and have fun. It's not like this isn't a good time and having fun. So if you come up with a race mentality, I think you're going to kind of miss out. But if you come to have a good time and to push yourself and to see parts of Idaho that I had never seen otherwise, other than doing the tour of Idaho. I've spent a lot of time in Idaho, and there's a lot of Idaho that I really want to go back and see more of because of the tour of Idaho. The terrain out there is incredible. It's wonderful, and you get to stop in all these cool places and meet all these cool people along the way, and have fun with it. It's just a blast. There's some good food in places. There's some good lodging. There's some that's not as good, but it's fun. Just have a good time with it. Just relax and stay loose on the bike, and don't stress out. When you get in these tough situations, just remain calm, collect yourself, and figure out what you're going to do, because there's going to become at least a handful of points that happens in the tour of Idaho where you're going to come across a situation where it would be easy just to get all wound up, but there's no reason to. And if you get all wound up, it's going to be hard to solve your problem. Yeah. So have fun with it. Be respectful to Martin. Martin's put a lot of work into this.
No, just smack me in the head. That's what everybody does.
No, don't smack Martin in the head. Martin's a good guy. Martin is there to help you. And everybody, it's fun for everybody watching. We're having a good time following you and watching. So post lots of fun pictures. I like the Sandwich Boys a few years ago. Every picture those
guys were awesome.
They were fun. They had a good sandwich in their hand or whatever. Have fun with it. We'll be watching.
I really, the reason that I like having guys like you on, and Jimmy said the same thing. Have fun with it. Don't beat your chest. Just go out there and ride and have a good time. And some of my favorite people in the world are people that didn't make it on the tour of Idaho. I met them. They showed up. They gave it a shot, and they said, for one reason or the other, it's not for us. I still talk to some of those people every couple of days. There are all kinds of cool people that I've met through this, and the drama is a little tiring at times, but it doesn't obscure the fact that I've met a whole bunch of people that I really like through this. And you guys that are out there this year, I tell everybody, you're going to be a part of one of the best communities there is out there, because everybody knows what you're going through when they're watching you. They're going to be watching your PLBs and the places you have them turned on. They're going to be going, oh, man, I remember what I was going through in that spot. And the stories are incredible. David Cullen down in California, those guys did that Heller-Simmons Divide Trail once at like 4 a.m.
Oh, wow.
And they accidentally rode up Washout Point. They got lost back in there. And, David's not as active as he used to be, because it's been about 10 years for him now. But, for a few years, every time somebody would get out there, he would tell that story. And that's like the worst trail in the world to ride down. Riding up it at 4 a.m. would just be – it's a dream that's too awful to have more than once. So when you are out there on the trail – we may give you a bad time. We may make fun of you a little bit, poke fun of you a little bit, but everybody is really rooting for you. And all you have to be is just don't be an asshole when things go south, and it'll all be just fine. But anyway, thank you very much for your time. You guys get over here with your families this fall after everybody sawed everything for us and the snow's gone away, and I'll take you and show you all the new stuff.
All right, man. Thanks, Martin.
Take care, brother.
All right, see you
Bye-bye.
later. Bye.
All right, so there you go. Well, we've got a few minutes left, so if you have any questions, you can ask them right now. We'll do another one of these next week. I'll have another guest on. Next week, I'm going to talk a little bit more about some last-minute prep, some things you should be getting done as your time rolls in. But just briefly, while I wait for some questions here, if you have any, right now is the time to make sure that you've got your kit all sorted out, your bike all sorted out. The navigation that you know about, just be going through it. Make sure you understand navigation. Make sure that you don't have any piece. Right now, you should have in your hand every single piece of equipment that you intend to use on the tour of Idaho. There should be, Nick Wood, you asked a good question. I'll get to it in a minute. I will be happy to share the plans with my saw mount for anybody that asks. Somebody DM'd me a while ago, and I said, when I get it built, I'll put up some pictures. But after watching the last adventure of My Saw is Bigger Than Your Saw, I'm not going to make this available for public distribution. It's my mount. I built it for myself. If you're interested in it, I'll send you the plans on how to build one for yourself. But one thing that does drive you nuts for a while when you do things like this is you try to make the world a better place by saying, look, this is something that will allow you to solve a bunch of problems at once. I like it. What you will get is 100 people telling you why you don't know what you're doing. And I have no time for that anymore. So, Nick Wood, when I get this thing built, I'll send you a picture of it, and I'll send you some plans, and you can see what you think. I know it'll work on KTMs because I've been testing prototypes on KTM-type motorcycles. I'm going to start working on Hondas and Yamahas and a few other things next. This is not as sturdy and as bulletproof as some of the commercial ones you can buy. TrailTech made one a few years ago that was just awesome. It was a really good mount, but they couldn't make any money off of it. And one of the reasons they couldn't make any money off of it is, once again, they took the time to engineer a very good, very nice, lightweight mount that accommodated a wide variety of saws. And all they heard is, you guys don't know what you're doing. This thing sucks. This is what's wrong with it. You know, the Bill Dart mount is a pretty good mount. I know a lot of you are into that. And it's a pretty good mount. I know Bill a little bit, not a lot, but I'll bet he gets flipped a lot of crap about his mount too. And I'm just not interested in that. I don't need the money. I'm not interested in selling them. So I'll give you the plans, and you can do with it what you want. Again, I'm not going to promise this is the most bulletproof mount in the world. What I am going to promise is it will accommodate all these little lightweight arbor saws, which is what most of us use anymore. And you don't have to remove your headlight mask, which is the big advantage of this. It partially obscures your headlamp a little bit, but not a lot. A lot of times I ride out and I got to ride back down a highway somewhere to get back to my trailer. I don't want to have that headlight removed. And I'm not real crazy about installing like the little LED light bars and stuff that I see a lot of guys do. I think that's okay, but you're inviting some scrutiny if a state trooper goes by or something like that. I would just assume have my normal headlight and my normal auxiliary lights and not have to take that thing off if I don't have to. And also, it exposes some stuff up there that I don't like particularly being exposed. There's a lot of wiring and stuff that hides behind that headlamp. So that's my motivation for doing it. Maybe you don't care about any of that stuff, so get your mount from Bill Dart or find one of the old Trailtechs if you can. All right. So I don't really see a lot in the line of questions. I see some comments. Hello, Jeff Jensen. Hello, Nick. And hello, Justin, Team Eagles. So I'm going to sign off a little bit early tonight so I can go out and ride some motorcycle with my son. My son's got a little 50. He's learned how to ride, and we worked on a skills track, and he's actually getting pretty good at the doggone thing. So once again, you have wasted a perfectly good 50 minutes of your life that you can't get back with a complete knucklehead. Aaron's a different story, but you smack me around all you want to. I deserve it. Thanks a lot for showing up tonight. Next week, we will have, I'll post some specific topics that we're going to discuss that I think will be very useful to you all. And I'll have another guest next week. I think I know who it's going to be, but I got to wait for some confirmation. Let's see. Anything else? Again, the expiration of the Garmin Geos insurance is something that you ought to pay attention to. It's something that we've always recommended in the past just as an extra layer. You're not going to have that this year. During the riders' meetings, I'm going to talk a lot about, what happens if things go wrong. And we've had people have helicopter evacs from the Tour of Idaho before, so you should be prepared for something like that to happen to you. And I was helping Jimmy Lewis with King of the Motos about, 8 or 9 years ago. One of the first years he did it. And a rider was unfortunately hurt. The rider actually wasn't hurt in the race. It was he was part of the crew, and we were riding out to set some stuff up. And this guy was he was on the gas and in a place he shouldn't have been. He had a really bad get off. And I have some first aid training. I have wilderness emergency care. Since I was a climbing guide and a ski guide and I ski patrolled, I had to take a lot of first aid courses. And so I've kept my certification up and most of that stuff. So I was the first person on the scene, and it was apparent to me that this fellow was badly hurt. I took his vitals and looked over, and I said, yeah, I think this guy is pretty knackered. And I told him, look, dude, I'm going to call in a helicopter. I'm going to get on the radio right now, and you'll be out of here in 20 minutes. No, do not call a helicopter. Why not? Because I can't afford a helicopter ride. The guy didn't have insurance, and he knew that ride was going to cost him around $30,000. I called it anyway. I said, your choice is to lay here and die or take that helicopter ride. But right now, your vitals are going the wrong way. You're going to lose consciousness in a few minutes, and I'm making the call. The helicopter is on its way. And I'm glad I did, because it turned out that the guy had 2 punctured lungs and a lacerated spleen. I mean, he was seriously injured. You do not want to skimp on helicopter insurance. And again, make sure yours is valid in Idaho. And I'll do some looking around myself for alternatives to the Geos Medevac. If anybody finds anything, send it to me, and I'll post it up on the tour page as quickly as I can. But we want to make sure that that's not something that you skimp on. The rescue kit and Medevac insurance and your first aid kit are some things that you absolutely do not want to skimp on. And one other thing that you could do right now, besides, last-minute navigation, making sure you're familiar with everything in your kit, is go back and review your first aid, because all of us that have done the tour very many times have finished with broken bones and various other things. I've broken the bones in my right foot 3 times on the tour of Idaho. I finished with a foot so swollen that the last day I thought I was going to have to ride without my right boot. Brett Asper could tell you all about that. All kinds of people could tell you about. They got to the end of the tour, and they went in the next day, and their x-rays revealed that they had all kinds of things wrong with them. So make sure that you are up on your first aid a little bit so that you or someone on your team can diagnose what's going on. It should really be everybody in your team should be up on first aid, because if you get separated, you have a little bit of a problem. Jim Spooner, things can go wrong quick. Jeff Jensen, how easy is it for you to get separated from your teammates when you're out there? Jeff can tell you all about that. Somebody could be carrying something that you need. Yeah, if the first aid kit is with the guy that's not hurt, all of a sudden you're in trouble. There you go, Jeff. 1 year at St. Luke's, $60. Life flight insurance is incredibly cheap, so please make sure that you get it before you show up here. All right, everybody, thanks a lot for spending an hour with me, and I will be seeing you next week. Cheers.